Hello everyone, I am Dumpel Danzo from BSED English 2A, and for today's lesson I together with my group, the group 5, will impart our knowledge and understanding regarding the topic Netiquette, the social conventions online. With this, we will be presenting to you the 10 core rules of Netiquette. But before we jump into that, let me first make you familiar and comprehend as well the word netiquette. So, what is netiquette? It is simply stated as network network etiquette from the word itself net, and then at the etiquette there will be netiquette. So that means the etiquette of cyberspace. And etiquette means that the forms required by good breeding or prescribed by authority to be required in social or official life. So, in other words, netiquette is a set of rules for behaving properly online when you enter any new culture, and cyberspace has its own culture. You're liable to commit a few social blunders. You might offend people without meaning to, or you might misunderstand what others say and take offense when it's not intended. To make matters worse, something about cyberspace makes it easy to forget that you're interacting with other real people, not just the ASCII characters that on a screen or the American Standard Code for Information Interchange, but live human characters. So, partly as a result of forgetting that people online are still real, and partly because they don't know the conventions, well, meaning cybernauts, especially new ones, make all kinds of mistakes. Do you remember the very first day of our online class? It feels like we're on a new dimension, but truth is, we just have had a hard time catching up and fixing the new technologies or the application that we're using the first time. We got lost in control in opening our cameras or turning on our microphones and such matters like that. And it is indeed challenging, but thankfully we got through all of that. Moving on, Netiquette has a dual purpose. First is to help net newbies minimize their mistakes, and to help experienced cyberspace travelers help the newbies. The premise of Netiquette is that most people would rather make friends than enemies, and that if you follow a few basic rules, you're less likely to make the kind of mistakes that will prevent you from making friends. Because in the online community, we cannot fully show our real intentions, can we? Maybe at some point we can, but I doubt that it will be understood accordingly. It is still better to be face to face with the people we'll have most of the time we'll be spending with. For example, our classmates and our teachers. Now, anyway, the list of core rules that we'll be presenting to you and the explanations that we're going to impart to each of you are exerted from the deepest root of our mind, and of course with the help of the internet as we do our research. They are offered here as a set of general guidelines for cyberspace behavior. Our explanations may not answer all your netiquette questions, but we will be at our best in imparting our knowledge to you, and we will give you some basic principles as well to use in solving your own netiquette dilemmas. Now, the first rule is remember the human. Do you still remember in your elementary years when our teacher taught us the quotation that says, "Do unto others as you'd have others do unto you"? I'm sure all of you are familiar with this saying. During our elementary years, we are taught to be polite. Quotations are everywhere, like honesty is the best policy, and many more. Now, have you ever imagined how you'd feel if you were in the shoes of the in the other person's shoes? Stand up for yourself, but try not to hurt people's feelings. In cyberspace, we state this in an even more basic manner. Remember the human. When you communicate electronically, all you see is a computer screen. You don't have the opportunity to use facial expressions, gestures, and tone of voice to communicate your meaning, and that is a bit complicated when interacting. Okay, so words, lonely written words are all you've got, and that goes for your correspondent as well. When you're holding a conversation online, whether it's an email exchange or a response to a discussion group or posting, or let's say the most common communication this time of pandemic, this online class. We're given codes or links to join the class, and then our teacher is up for the discussion. Well, it's easy to misinterpret our teacher's meaning of words or her choosing of words. And it's frighteningly easy to forget that the one on the other side of the screen is a person with feelings more or less like our own. It's ironic. Computer networks bring people together who'd otherwise never met, but the impersonality of the medium changes that meeting to something less personal, obviously. Humans exchanging conversation often behave the way some people behind the wheel of a car do. See, for example, in a traffic, they curse at other drivers, make obscene gestures, and generally behave like savages. Have you been into this situation before? If you do, then maybe it's time for you to think of an action that will not lead you into the same situation again. This may be a good start, though, because most of things happening like this would never act that way at work or at home, and even more in person. But the interpossession of the machine seems to make it acceptable. For instance, when it's time for class and we students are given the privilege to turn off our cameras as well as our microphones, then while our teacher is discussing, and then without her knowing that on the other side of the screen someone is already sleeping. Situations like this aren't a good practice, isn't it? So the message of Netiquette is that it's not acceptable. Yes, use your network connections to express yourself freely, explore strange new worlds, and boldly go where you've never gone before. Participate and be polite enough to listen to your teacher. Okay? But remember that the prime directive of Netiquette is that on the other side of the screen, those are real people. That is your teacher. The question is, would you do it when the time that the school decides to have face-to-face? Obviously, you won't. Therefore, you have to pay respect, even if we're still in this platform and in this system of learning. We have to consider everyone's feeling, because after all, it is not only you that is struggling, it's us. Okay? Moving on, another reason not to be offensive online is when you communicate through cyberspace via email or on discussion groups, your words are written, and chances are they're stored somewhere where you have no control over them. In other words, there's a good chance they can come back to haunt you. There's this story of a famous email user, Oliver North. Ollie was a great great devotee of the White House email system proves. He diligently deleted all incriminating notes he sent or received. What he didn't realize was that somewhere else in the White House computer room, staff were equally diligently backing up the mainframe where his messages were stored. So when he went on trial, all those handy backup tapes were readily available as evidence against him. So you see, you don't have to be engaged in criminal activity to want to be careful. Any message you send could be saved or forwarded by its recipient. You have no control over where it goes. So in using online platforms, you have to be extra careful of your actions. Remember the popular saying that says, think before you click. Alright? Now, moving on to the second rule, they adhere to the same standards of behavior online that you follow in real life. In easy words, be real. Simple as that. In real life, most people are fairly law-abiding either by disposition or because they're afraid of getting caught. In cyberspace, however, the chances of getting caught sometimes seem slim, and perhaps because people sometimes forget that there's a human being on the other side of the computer. Some people think that a lower standard of ethics or personal behavior is acceptable in cyberspace, which, may I remind you, by the way, in any means not. The confusion may be understandable, but these people are mistaken. Standards of behavior may be different in some areas of cyberspace, but they are not lower than in real life. Don't believe anyone who says the only ethics out there are what you can get away with. This is all about manners, not about ethics. Remember that when you are in an online forum, use respectful language, name calling, cursing, expressing deliberately offensive opinions. If you wouldn't do this to the face of anyone who might conceivably see what you write, then don't write it. This goes for social media sites, forums, chat rooms, and email messages, or in our online class most especially. If you think it can't be traced back to you, well, sadly for you, it can. Using any sort of verbal abuse online can get you banned from your social groups. At a minimum, your remarks will likely be removed, as 1 in 3 online comments are rejected by page moderators. Keep in mind that it's not just what you say that may be considered disrespectful, but how you say it. For example, text in all caps is generally perceived as yelling. For instance, either use the shift key for capital letters or write in all lowercase, but don't use caps lock. Don't forget to say please and thank you as appropriate. Another thing to remember is video meeting netiquette. When met when meeting with colleagues online, following a few general guidelines can help keep your interactions professional. Proper online etiquette for video meeting include checking your device's audio and video before the meeting to ensure that they work. Then creating a background that isn't cluttered so it isn't disruptive, or selecting a background offered by the video meeting platform. And please do not use backgrounds such as heavens and the likes. Know when to use it and when not to. At least be professional. Another is in choosing a professional screen name. Your first name and last name is a good option. Avoid nicknames or any screen name that could be offensive or unprofessional. Next, join the meeting on time. Mute yourself when you're not speaking. Do not talk over other meeting participants. These are just few things to remember, but these things are very crucial in etiquette or in social conventions online. Put in mind that adhere what you follow in real life and apply it accordingly. And if you encounter an ethical dilemma in cyberspace, consult the code you follow in real life. Chances are good you'll find the answer, but Netiquette mandates that you do your best to act within the laws of society and cyberspace. Be a responsible user. So I guess that's it for my assigned report. The other 8 remaining rules will be reported respectively by my group mates. So I hope you have gained something from my report. That's all. Thank you and God bless.